These guys, for their value, I absolutely love, and these guys really have the potential to win you your league. These are my must draft players. First and foremost, somebody I mentioned in the last video we just talked about was Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, I am super high on. You guys have probably seen by now my top 10 running backs list. Leonard Fournette has everything going for him. He's in a great offense with Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to be dumping the ball off to him a lot this year. Did it a lot last year. Was a top 3 receiving back, which is something that I never thought I'd say about Leonard Fournette. He's going to get a lot of pass catching opportunities, especially now that Chris Godwin is going to be out for most of the year. That offense is going to rely even more on him. He won that top job over Ronald Jones last year. He's going to be the top dog in that offense now, especially now that he's gone. He's going to get all those opportunities. He was a top 5 or the top 10 red zone opportunities, top 5 within the 5 opportunities. There's so much going for him that I love.
Yeah, and like you said, without Ronald Jones there to take out, the touches away from him, he's going to get a lot more work. Similar to how he was when he was with Jacksonville, for instance, where he had that heavy workload, and he got a ton of fantasy production in those years with Jacksonville. I expect the same to happen with that. And to even add on to that, they're going to be missing Godwin for, a couple
most of the. I think it's actually most of the season.
He did tear his ACL late in the season. You say that takes about a year. I say it takes about 9 months. So I think he's going to be back probably around like week 4 or 5 coming into the season.
But keep in mind, he kept playing on it for an additional couple weeks after he tore it. So he did some even more damage to an already torn ACL.
But that also helps him with recovery because all the other muscles there strengthened up to help support the torn ACL.
I don't know if that's exactly how that works. By the way,
it is because I went through that.
Shut up. Yeah. Also, you'll think you're a wide receiver running routes on a football field.
No, but it is in that aspect, it does strengthen. It helps a little bit. I'm not sure how much it helps, but it does help a little bit in the recovery phase. Before you go on to the next one, I'm going to go ahead and say one that's not on our list. Still on Tampa Bay though, Russell Gage just signed with them. He's going to be taking over that safety blanket role for Chris Godwin while Chris Godwin's out.
Yeah, he's going to be a nice wide receiver 2 in that offense. He's not going to be a wide receiver 2 quite in fantasy, but you're drafting him almost in the 100 pick range. His ADP is around 100. He has the capability of being a really good wide receiver in this offense, coming over from Atlanta where he had a terrible time last season. We expected him to take off, but Matt Ryan, that offense just wasn't that good. Now with Tom Brady, he has a good chance, but really, really, really love Leonard Fournette for this year. I was doing the research for my top 10 running backs video. I had him like 1 or 2 picks. I had him like 2 picks lower, but I just kept, I couldn't justify myself having him that low. So I just kept moving him up. And I'm like, this dude's incredible. Like he has so much going for him. Must draft Leonard Fournette. I would take him as the early 2nd round pick. We just did a mock draft. I took him as an early 2nd round pick. I would take him over Najee, who's going above him. There's some other running backs like Mixon and Swift that you can toss it up, but he, in my opinion, should be a early 2nd round pick and definitely a must draft. So is this next guy who is also a 2nd round pick, that being CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is now taking over as wide receiver 1 in that Cowboys offense. That Cowboys offense that we saw how Zeke performed last year is going to be looking to pass the ball a lot. Their offensive line did get worse, unfortunately, so Dak's going to have a little bit more of a rough time there. But CeeDee Lamb, fantastic first 2 years, a little overshadowed by how great Justin Jefferson has been. And obviously, Justin Jefferson is going to be like a top 5, top 6 fantasy pick. But then you're looking in the 2nd round, if you get a good running back first, if you're able to get like an Austin Eckler, pairing him up with a CeeDee Lamb is pretty much a perfect first 2 rounds.
I mean, like the mock draft we just did, I had a 9 out of 12 pick. I picked Dalvin first, and then I picked CD in the 2nd round. So that would have been what, 4th overall in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's I'm really high on him as well. Once again, with that offensive line and Zeke not being good the past few years or couple years, sorry. I don't expect the run game to be the focus like it has been over the past decade. I expect it to be more pass heavy, even with the loss of Cedric Wilson and Amari Cooper. I expect CD to pick up the slack along with Dalton Schultz, and I expect it to be very passive. That's also why I'm pretty high on Tony Pollard.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz is definitely a good tight end pick. I expect him to finish around like tight end 6 or 7, so that's not a bad shot right there. CeeDee Lamb has the ability now to become a top 5 wide receiver in all fantasy.
Yep.
You have guys like Tyreek Hill who are a big question mark. Deebo Samuel finished as wide receiver 2 last year, but Deebo has been very explicit about, and especially his agent, been very explicit about how he doesn't want Deebo running the ball as much. That was a lot of his production last year. He had 8 rushing touchdowns. You take that away, that's 48 fantasy points on the touchdowns alone. CeeDee Lamb is doing the opposite. He's going to be getting a bigger workload this season and can finish as a top 5 wide receiver. I really love him. Another wide receiver I really love, who I think is also going into his 2nd or 3rd year, being T. Higgins. In that Cincinnati Bengals offense, there is a lot of mouths to feed, but it works. They're being fed. Last year, second half of the season, T. Higgins had 3 games where he scored above 23 points, one of those being a 43-point game. A lot of people are going to look at T. Higgins around pick 24 like, wait a minute, Jamar Chase just went 20 picks above him. What's that going to do to affect his value? And I say he's probably the best wide receiver 2 going to fantasy football this year.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the one who actually pointed him out to you. So T. Higgins, I mean, he was just monstrous last year. And to finish the year, his connection with Joe Burrow is arguably just as good as Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, and they played together in college. Like, that connection is money. And it's just, they all complement each other well in that offense.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and even Tyler Boyd, who he had some drop off. And they called him, what was it, AJ Green's like little brother or something. So, I mean, that's a solid 3 right there. And Tyler Boyd's forgotten about now. That's how good T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd might be a decent late round pick. If either of these 2 get injured, his workload will increase. But another person that is going to explode in this offense is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was the quarterback, I think, 7 last year, which is very fair. Very good spot. But he's going to get even more of a workload now that he has a better offensive line. He's 2 years removed from the ACL. That's a really big deal. You see players progression 2 years after they have a major injury like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the year that they really take a step. And Burrow got to the Super Bowl last year. I still think that Herbert's better than Joe Burrow. And I know that's a conversation we've had, and we'll have a different day.
A different day for that.
But
I'm going to just explicitly disagree with him, just for record.
Well, Herbert's definitely better in fantasy. That's undeniable.
That's undeniable. I'll give you that one. But Joe, my man, I mean, he's just so good. He reads the defense well. He has that calm, cool, and collected. He doesn't panic. He gets the job done. And even last year, you saw towards the end of the year when the people were getting to him and tackling him, his knee was a little banged up. He ended up wearing a brace, I think, in the Super Bowl. So hopefully he strengthens that even more this offseason, or maybe not, hopefully, for us Dolphins.
Yeah, for fantasy football purposes.
Fantasy football purposes, I hope he does get better. For Dolphins purposes,
not so much.
But yeah, so I think he's gonna get stronger, healthier, and once again just be better. And they invested a lot of money in that offensive line. Like they stole a lot of people from my must sign list for the Dolphins.
I mean, we still ended up getting Teron Armstead, so
we did. And Connor Williams.
Yes.
Although he's going to be playing soon. Okay.
We'll see. But that Cincinnati Bengals offense, fantasy football wise, there's a lot to love there. But there's nobody that's really being overdrafted. Like Jamar Chase between 5 to 8, definitely can justify. Between him and Justin Jefferson for the wide receiver 2. T. Higgins, when I say best wide receiver 2, I'm talking about teams. Like, he's the best second option at wide receiver probably in the league. Like, the Rams have Allen Robinson. I'd much rather have T. Higgins, even though I'm really high on Allen Robinson as well. T. Higgins is going to have another year to get great opportunities in this offense and might be undervalued due to people questioning his workload with Jamar Chase in front of him. Another wide receiver who coming into last year was a wide receiver 2 in his offense. However, he finished as a wide receiver 1, and he is still being drafted as if he is the wide receiver 2 in this offense. That being Mike Williams. Mike Williams finished as the 9th best wide receiver last year. Keenan Allen, if I'm not mistaken, finished as the 11th or 12th best wide receiver. And yet Keenan Allen is going around pick 23, and Mike Williams is going around pick 44. I cannot wrap my head around that.
Yeah. I have no idea why that is. I'm going to throw out some maybe this is why kind of thing. He does have a significant injury history. And last year, he had a good 3 to 4 week slump, but then he broke out of it at the very end of the year. So it's kind of hard to, justify, because I was keeping a close eye on him because Tyrell in our fantasy league, he had him, and then he traded him, and I was trying to
me.
Yes.
Or somebody traded him. I got him at some point.
I think you got him. You didn't get him from Tyrell because Tyrell didn't trade with you. He refused to trade with you. He was one of the ones.
I don't remember.
For,
yeah.
The whole
veto every single trade I make.
At least you didn't make a trade and then ask other people to veto it.
Marcelo. I hope you're watching this, Marcelo. We'll never forgive you for that.
But yeah, so I am very high on Mike Williams. He's as far as fantasy level, I would put him mid-pack on wide receiver 1. I think that's how good he is.
He could definitely finish as a wide receiver 1.
Their offensive line also got better.
Yes.
And it continually got better throughout the season. And I believe they signed someone else to help it get better. Their defense got even better as well. And that helps offenses. People don't understand. Better defenses help the offensive perform better as well because they have more possessions, they have more time, and more points.
One thing that really does benefit him is how much harder the division has gotten. So let's say you're playing the Texans, right? Or you're playing Carolina. You have a big first half, but then you usually see the production drop. These are 4 really offensive strong teams with the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders. 4 really offensive strong teams. So you're going to see quite a few shootouts in this division. So if you can grab a wide receiver in this division, and we're highlighting Mike Williams here, do it because they're going to be having late game opportunities. These teams are going to, especially this Charger team, is going to score a lot of points. Mike Williams should easily get double-digit touchdowns, and he's been taken in the same area as Juju Smith-Schuster.
Which makes no sense to me.
No sense.
I'm sorry. Juju was good for 2 seasons, but that was when AB was there.
Yeah.
And when he was wide receiver 1, which he's probably going to be now, that he just wasn't good. And there's also a lot of mouths to feed there, and it's arguable that Mahomes hasn't played with a receiver like him before. He's always had look at the Chargers depth charts the past few years. It's been all Tyreek Hill players. And they even drafted a Tyreek Hill comp in their first round this year. So
yeah,
it's how well will that mesh? Now Mahomes is an all-pro quarterback. Not going to take anything away from him, but I just can't justify Juju over Mike Williams.
No shot. Somebody next that we'll move on to is I'm definitely, based off talking to you beforehand, that I'm higher on than you is Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is going to be taking over as the running back in that Jaguars offense with Trevor Lawrence. He set the catch record in Clemson, the ACC record for most catches by a running back. I think that's going to continue. Who knows what his yardage mark is going to be at the end of the year, but he's going to catch at least 50 catches in his first year. I'd expect him to be 60. Dare I say even close to 70. We saw Najee do it last year as a rookie. This is kind of his rookie year. He is going to be in the opportunity where he can swing out, he can play in the slot, and on top of that, he is going to be the starting running back for this Jaguars offense. And we saw James Robinson have so much success. James Robinson can't catch the ball. That's Etienne's specialty. I see a really high ceiling for Etienne where he can end up as a top 10 running back by the time the season ends.
I'm going to agree with you on that part. The reason that I'm not so high there is because of James Robinson. Now, I think if he explodes at the beginning of the season, but you got to remember it's a new quarterback, new system, everything in between. So how well are they going to start the season? Because they know what they have in James Robinson. So if he's not, an all-pro level running back, when James Robinson comes back, they have a competent coach now. They're not going to sit their all-pro running back or Pro Bowl running back, not all-pro. I'm sorry. But they're not going to sit their Pro Bowl running back when they have someone that's not performing at a Pro Bowl level. You know what I mean? So that's my. I agree that he should be drafted higher than his ADP. That's average draft position, by the way, guys. I do agree that he should be drafted higher than his ADP, but I'm not as high as him because of James Robinson.
James Robinson, the Jaguars want to be optimistic and say he's going to return early on in the season. The Achilles tear that he suffered, don't try to tell me that Cam Akers, like that example, is the reason why he's going to come back early. Cam Akers' recovery is something we've never seen in the history of the sport. And modern medicine has gotten really great to the point where that is more feasible, but doesn't mean that's the standard. That's not the rule.
Yeah. I mean, look at Adrian Peterson. He's the only one to really come back after an ACL tear like that and perform monstrously. Like you said earlier, most people after an ACL tear, they have like a decent season and then they're comfortable, they're healthy, and then they just ball out.
Yeah.
Like,
and they also, sorry, go ahead.
Like we expect Burrow to do. And I'm going to throw a little fan favorite, Tannehill. 2 years removed from his ACL injury, he led the Titans to a playoff berth. So, and AFC championship.
You really don't want to give up on Tannehill, do you?
I don't, but he's going to suck this year. He has no help.
Which is why Treylon Burks isn't going to cut it on the other list.
Yeah, on the other list, it is not going to cut it. Yeah, Treylon Burks, that's a no-no.
But Travis Etienne, very excited about what he can do this year. And it definitely, I really think there's a solid possibility of him finishing as a running back one area as a top 10 running back. Back to the wide receivers. And this one is a take your pick. Who are you more comfortable with? That being the two Broncos wide receivers of Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I'm more comfortable with Courtland Sutton because we've actually seen it done. We've seen him have a good season. Jerry Jeudy has been average through his first few years when he was taken as a wide receiver 2 in that draft a few years ago. He's the highest remaining drafted receiver from that draft that's still in the NFL because of Mr. Ruggs being in jail. But either of those two wide receivers, you look at Russell Wilson's time in Seattle and the wide receivers he's had at his disposal, of course, Doug Baldwin at first, then I moved on to Lockett, then I moved on to Metcalf. He has always had a top 15 wide receiver in his offense. And these are two very talented wide receivers that have just been stuck with Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Like they haven't had the quarterback that they can put them in a position to, get the deep ball and really just get the ball to them accurately where they can go make a play.
Yeah. And I'm going to go on the opposite end of the spectrum there. I'm going to go Jeudy, just for the fact that I've heard around that, because before last year I told you that he hasn't really gotten better from high school. He was that good in high school and he's that good now. But I've heard reports that he's actually looking even better and a lot healthier since his ACL tear. So his recovery has like flipped a switch kind of, and he's looking a lot better. And I feel like he fits that Doug Baldwin kind of type of receiver better than Sutton does. And Baldwin performed a lot better than Lock and Metcalf have.
Both of those wide receivers, they're going right around the same spot. They're literally separated by, I think, 3 positions. I think Sutton might be a little higher on the draft board, but that's in a position where take who you prefer. You prefer Jeudy. I prefer Sutton. Both of them have a great opportunity to have a good year. Argument could be made, well, since they're so close to each other, they could get in each other's way. Yeah, but we also saw both DK and Tyler Lockett have success at the same time with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's now in a better opportunity with a better offensive line, better running game, and that offense is really going to do a good job. Especially then, you look, those two guys are going after Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
who we really don't think is going to have that good of a year.
Yeah, not unless Watson plays, Amari Cooper's not going to have that good of a year. He doesn't have the quarterback. I mean, he didn't do much with the Raiders. He didn't have a good connection with Derek Carr, and we've seen other receivers' success there. But when he was with Dak, he had a fantastic few years there. To kind of backtrack a little bit to the Denver Broncos, I was trying to signal you. I wanted to throw in Tim Patrick as a low end, like hideaway flex play in case one of those receivers gets hurt, because they do have injury history, as a kind of like keep away, store them.
No, that's definitely not a bad suggestion.
But yeah, so going back to, so take it away.
Sorry, I just got
Lost track.
This is non-football related at all.
Well,
Damian Lillard, 2 years, $122 million. Man, I should have made the NBA. Back to the fantasy football.
Yeah, that's kind of what distracted me too, not gonna lie.
Yeah, this will let you guys know when we record this, because God knows when this is actually going out. Last on this list, I want to throw out a name that really had a lot of success last year, but then kind of suffered some injuries. Kadarius Toney. He was the most effective weapon in that Giants offense last year. Somebody who Daniel Jones really looked to connect with, had some really monstrous games. And when he had the ball in his hand, when he was healthy, he averaged the most amount of yards after catch when he was healthy. Then of course he got hurt, but we have no injury history in college. It was 1 year, not really sure if that's going to be replicated. I'm a really big fan of Kadarius Toney, especially when you see he's being picked around the 90, also in the 100 level. Someone else that also love to draft Rashad Penny in the same area. If you can get either of those two guys, really big fan of them.
Yeah, and to keep going, add on to what you're saying, I mean, the dude can ball, bro. Like, I had him in fantasy, like I think a couple weeks out of the season, and he had like a 30-point game, a 20-point game. Then he got injured. He was out for a long time. Then I released him. Then, of course, he balled out again, and then he got injured again. So it was kind of like a weird season for him. But dude, if he's healthy, he is the top pick. I mean, he balled with Kenny Galladay and
Sterling Shepard
when they were healthy. They all three played together, and he was the preferred choice. Like, think about that.
Yeah, he is the definition of a playmaker. You give it to him short, you can hit him downfield. I absolutely love him. Didn't write this down. Somebody else that I want to draft, but I'm not like putting my whole eggs on it, is Dameon Pierce around pick 130. Hey, third round pick for the Houston Texans. Houston Texans are desperate for one of those running backs to work. Dameon Pierce being a rookie, I think he's gonna have a good opportunity to succeed. And I want to play this back and see Dameon Pierce having a good year this year.
I'm gonna play this back also. Marlon Mack.
So he's going a different Texans running back.
I'm going with a different Texans running back. Marlon Mack, they're going back to back. Marlon Mack is projected the pick in front of
Dameon Pierce.
However, Marlon Mack, before Jonathan Taylor got there, he was the guy, and he had injury history, but he had fantasy production, so much fantasy production. I'm really high on him, especially I think Davis Mills takes that next step.
We'll see.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, they do have another head coach. I wasn't a big fan of firing their old coach for Lovie Smith. I'm not high on Lovie Smith. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's not.
Especially when they could have got Flores.
Those two guys on the Texans offense is going to be questionable to see, but I want to get my boy Dameon Pierce out there. Go Gators.